You wake up in the morning and something feels off, like you've woken up in a stranger's life. You don't feel at home. You don't feel at home with the life that you find yourself in. There is this feeling of unease, and somewhere deep down, you know something is off. Your life should feel like it's worth living for you. You should be looking forward to getting out of the bed in the morning, excited to live, not dragging yourself through the day like it's a punishment. And if that is the case, something is out of alignment and it needs your attention. So today I want to talk about something that's become a common pattern among people who are on the spiritual path. People who meditate, people who chant, read spiritual books, and listen to spiritual discourses on YouTube. Yet their outer life feels like a mess. Finances, relationships, physical health, purpose. Usually, a compromise is felt in one or more of these areas, and no one wants to talk about it because it's uncomfortable. We will not skirt around these issues anymore. We will speak honestly about what's really going on when your outer life doesn't reflect your inner needs, desires, and aspirations. Welcome to the Yogis Pod. I know I have been MIA for a while, but please get used to it. I didn't get into spirituality to get popular on the internet, but I do love the feeling of being connected with my fellow spiritual seekers around the world. And I love to offer whatever I have learned on my journey of many, many lifetimes here. Okay, now, so let's talk about spiritual bypassing. What most people do when they feel a certain misalignment in their lives is that they try to escape it. Spiritual bypassing is using spiritual terminology, ideas, concepts, and practices to avoid facing the real issues. Spiritual bypassing isn't just a concept, it may have many implications on many aspects of your life, be it your finances, your relationships, your body, your career, they all show signs. What we want is to close the gap between our inner needs, desires, our true potential, and the reality we are living on the outside. If you're interested in this is what we're going to talk about. So, we must approach this on a very personal level. This is not about someone else. This needs to be an entirely individual and personal assessment of your own life. Someone else should not be telling you how you should feel about your life because each one of us has our own destiny, a purpose, and a way of life which would fulfill us to an extent such that we can call our own lives a success. So let's start this conversation from the lower end of the needs hierarchy. My definition of success may not be applicable to your life, and yours may not be applicable to mine. We have already established this. But there are certain aspects that we can all agree upon. This is not applicable to the path of brahmacharya. We are talking about the grihastha, a householder, people like you and me. Now, that implies that you are in transaction with the society in many different ways. You're using electricity, the internet, probably watching this on a little device people built over centuries of collective effort. So let's not pretend you are outside of the system. You are in it, which means money matters. To live and take advantage of modern day amenities in this world, you need currency. And to earn currency, you have to give, not just take, contribute, and not just consume. If you think you deserve the benefits without offering any value, that is known as entitlement. So, what I mean to say is that you have to participate in a meaningful way, offer value in whatever way you can, and that is the exchange. But this is what a lot of spiritual people seem to be confused about. They think dealing with money is somehow beneath them, as if wanting to earn a decent living is a sign that they are not spiritual enough. They say they don't care about money until they have to. Then comes the anxiety, the shame, the frustration, all while pretending it's not about the money. Let's be clear, money isn't the problem. Our identification to it could be. If you believe it's unspiritual, you will avoid it. If you avoid it, you will stay stuck and resentful. And all of that, the confusion, the frustration starts to pile up. Now, why am I explaining this is because many spiritual people are financially compromised and they think their sadhana is not working. I have a lot of people emailing me about being in a bad financial situation, but they seem to avoid addressing it directly. Like you say, you don't have a job, but you're doing 8 hours of sadhana in a day, starting in the afternoon, not Brahmamurtam. You're starting in the afternoon. And next, they're planning to do some spiritual program for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, because people in the spiritual community are telling them to do so. This is their idea of a solution. Instead of fixing the glaring issue in your life, you want to do something else. I would call this spiritual bypassing. If the kitchen is on fire, why are you watering the plants in the backyard? So many young people, fresh out of college, heading to an ashram, would be great if it weren't for the fact that a lot of them are dodging, avoiding real life responsibilities. Then they do all kinds of mental gymnastics using spiritual terminologies to convince their parents that this is their calling. Or they ask me to convince their parents. I, for one, side with the parents in most instances, at least, because they're paying the bills. And even though I see the conflict in perspectives between the older and the younger generations, I do see it. It is that the previous generation is more rooted in survival and security, but that makes them more grounded. They understand practical real life situations better. Whereas the younger generation is going a step higher in the needs hierarchy, and that is why they seek spirituality. Just materialism, just finances is not good enough for them. I feel one can be balanced in this. It's very hard to pursue your spiritual calling when you don't have money, when you don't have a successful career. And of course, if you go to the other extreme, you're going to be miserable with all the money in the world if you neglect your spiritual calling, if you neglect the spiritual aspect of your being. And I'm not saying that you can't approach material wealth through energetic means. You can do that. We can't go into it too much in this video, but you can do certain pujas, and there are deities which can positively influence your life in terms of prosperity. And also, there are ways to manifest things into reality through non physical dimensions. But my understanding of this is that it doesn't work if you don't work. I have also come across people who have gone to an ashram for an indefinite amount of time, not to take brahmacharya, but they seem to be in hiding because they have left their spouses at home. Are they hiding from their spouse or are they hiding from their responsibilities? If you ask them, again, more convoluted bullshit, more spiritual bypassing. They say, no, I am now committed to this guru. Okay. And what about your commitment to your marriage, which you yourself made? People have become very flimsy and spineless. And so their commitment is not worth much, if you ask me. Doesn't matter to whom or to what. They will always be flip flopping through life. I have spoken about relationships on the spiritual path on a different video, but here I wanted to mention it in the context of spiritual bypassing. Another way people do this is that they no longer have a connection with their partner, but they're still living with them. Now, no matter how many spiritual pilgrimages you make, You have to come back home. And this home doesn't feel like home because you're living with a stranger, or worse, an enemy. Now, as you're listening to this, especially if you're fitting some of these descriptions or the descriptions to follow, I'm aware that these may feel like difficult topics to address. But if you don't come to face it now, what will be more difficult is to come to face it at the end of your life or after wasting years and decades in an unhappy, unfulfilled life. And a miserable person will never seek spirituality. A miserable person will only seek to find relief from their particular misery, to escape it. They won't look for anything beyond that. I think life is too short to live with somebody you do not like. But another kind of spiritual bypassing that people have found is this one is for single people. They say they are spiritual, but in reality, they can't get along with a single person. They love some god up there, some guru they have never met, but they can't love the person sitting next to them. One with the universe they want to be, but they can't be one with another human being. So the next conclusion is to say, I don't want a relationship. I'm spiritual now. And they won't take a brahmacharya because of the obvious compulsions. Now, I'm not saying you can't be single and happy, but the attitude of the man hating woman and the woman hating man is becoming a concerning trend. The truth about relationships is that we all want to feel a deep sense of connection with another human being. Having healthy and happy relationships with the people around you is not anti spiritual. In fact, the opposite could become an obstacle. Let me make the main point that I'm trying to make clear. A human being contains many different aspects within himself, each seeking expression in the outer world. You will have a need for comfort, a need for relationships, not just romantic relationships, but all kinds of interpersonal relationships. And you may have a need to express yourself in artistic forms like to paint or sing. Then you may have a need to do some work like start a business and so on. And at the center of it all is what we call the spiritual longing. If you're honest with yourself, you will realize that you have all these aspects within you. We are multidimensional beings. And until all this finds expression, you will not live a fulfilled life. To say I will just focus on any one thing and be happy is delusional. Sure, some people will be there who may have a more pronounced spiritual aspect than others comparatively. And such people should pursue it to whatever extent they see fit. They must do that. But the point is, we need to acknowledge our own multifacetedness, our multidimensionality. And yes, there will be examples of great gurus, yogis, and saints who have taken birth primarily so that the divine and the higher realms of life finds expression through them. They should serve as inspiration for us to address our spiritual longing for sure. But we cannot impose upon ourselves their life path by prescription and expect for it to work. They were true to their calling. We need to be true to our own. Do you not think that's what their teachings are pointing at? That imitation is not going to work. The glamour of spiritual giants blinds people sometimes. This yogi came and he did this many miracles and then left his body from these many chakras. Okay, I believe you. I have met many fantastic beings and heard about their extraordinary experiences. It's a phenomenal thing to be in the presence of such beings. Just being next to them can do miraculous things to you. And I have been very lucky that way. But then, after experiencing all of that, shouldn't we focus on our own life as well? And then maybe that becomes a foundation to higher spiritual realms, to just live in a joyful way and to share that joy with other human beings around us. Maybe that's good enough sadhana for many of us. Okay, you can make your Kundalini rise to your third eye. Fine, fine, I get it. But you open your wallet and a fly comes out. Bills make you weep. If you're happy like this, fine. I have nothing against people, regardless of their financial status. But chances are that you're not happy about this. And you could actually do well with a financial flow which matches your needs. Where a huge percentage of the population is poor, people will try to make poverty into a spiritual trait. This is why people criticize gurus like Sadhguru when he drives expensive cars and wears expensive watches. But they would take a fraction of that wealth in a heartbeat. When someone else has it, it's greed. But when it's in your own bank account, you're more than okay with it. Jealousy is ugly, I think. If you desire wealth and success, but you have a resistance to it, then that resistance prevents you from working towards it. And when it feels completely out of reach, the only way to cope is by tearing down the person who has it. This cognitive dissonance of desiring something and resenting someone who has it will keep people stewing in their own negativity. And this resistance, hatred, this jealousy will become a block to your own success. And this dynamic isn't limited to wealth. The same mechanism operates wherever there is a gap between your desire and your perceived ability to attain it. Why can't we be happy when other people succeed? What insecurity in people causes them to hate their own friends and family if they seem to gain even a little more, even slightly more success than them? This is a sickness. If your friend won the lottery ticket, would you be happy or upset? Be honest with yourself and see. For example, I have seen many women in the spiritual community get so mad when their best friend gets married because they are single and unhappy themselves, obviously. If you're happy with who you are and what you have, you will never feel this way. You may desire something which someone else has, you may aspire for it, or better yet, be inspired by it, but the chosen emotion is jealousy. Are people okay in the spiritual community? Honestly, the bar for friendship has fallen really low for a lot of people, women especially. Women need to be better friends to other women. This is just a fact. This is just not happening. Why can't our idea of abundance be all encompassing? Wouldn't abundance mean it would be beyond boundaries and limits? The universe has a lot to go around. That is my idea of spirituality. And I like to surround myself with people who have the same idea. People who are content, yet geared for growth. And the reason I'm placing specific emphasis on certain areas like finances is because I have seen so many genuinely sincere people, seekers, healers, creatives, they get stuck here, especially those trying to build a business or offer their work to the world. Now, before you think I'm being overly materialistic, maybe you should see how many problems in your life money is actually able to fix. And I'm not saying it will fix all, it won't. So let's come to that now. A fit body, a calm mind, a house full of love. These things cannot be bought, they must be earned. Someone on a podcast was asking me, do we need to do Hatha Yoga and be physically strong if we are on the path of Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge? You see the mental gymnastics to avoid doing Hatha Yoga and to take care of your body? Trust spiritual people to come up with great spiritual reasons to avoid something they don't want to do. And this is obviously not an insult to that person, but I'm just laughing at the idea behind it. And they will give examples of Neem Karoli Baba and Ashtavakra. Arey, you're not them. Then why come up with super spiritual reasons for not being able to lose or gain a few kilos or just to be generally fit, energetic, and healthy? Only if mental gymnastics burnt as many calories as real gymnastics, a lot of people would be fit. Too harsh? Well, maybe. Or maybe you treat yourself worse than the people who tell you to eat a salad. Maybe excuses are a form of self betrayal. Maybe self care is to be disciplined sometimes. Maybe self care is to actually do the things you said you would do and hold yourself accountable to fulfill your own true potential. Okay, I think we have covered quite a bit in this video, but if you stayed until this point, then you need to hear this. We all have one major blind spot, and that is ourselves. I can look around this entire room, but I can't see myself without a mirror. It's the same with our patterns, our flaws, our limitations. Most of us are simply unaware. And that's exactly why I made this video. Because we have reached a point where everyone is walking on eggshells, tiptoeing around the truth. Other than a few voices, most people out here are just enabling their audiences, sugarcoating, people pleasing. But the truth is, if something triggers you, that doesn't make it wrong. It means something inside you is calling for your attention. And energy flows where attention goes. And energy is what can cause healing. And yes, you can take your time, but isn't it still your responsibility to heal it? And this isn't about being offensive for the sake of it. It's about confronting what you have been avoiding. Because maybe, just maybe, that's the very thing you most urgently need to face. Start from where you are. This is your reality. How good, how bad, how deep in the mess you are, that's your starting point. And remember this, we are not talking about tying your self-worth to your bank account or your body or your relationship status. This is about living in a way that reflects your inner truth. You already know what's not working in your life, and you don't need another spiritual teaching to point it out. You just need to stop pretending it's fine. The uncomfortable thing that you keep avoiding, that is the doorway. You either walk through it or you keep circling around it, dressed up in different excuses. But if you're listening, obviously you're done circling, and now you have the intention to move on. You have the right to walk your path in your own way. You don't have to move to a cave. You don't need to wear white or speak softly to be spiritual. The real masters never looked the same. Some gurus lived perfect sattvic lives. Some great masters, like Gurdjieff, gave discourses while drinking whiskey. The Aghoris do sadhana on human corpses. They're also wildly different, but all of them have access to the divine. So now it's your turn to be true to your own divine path. Let go of that one thing. You already know what that is. That habit, that attachment, that excuse. It's not serving you anymore. And we are not talking about perfection. It's about dropping the performance and finally stepping into your life fully and honestly. Maybe that's the real work now. Not to become someone else, but to come home to your own self. And your life may never be perfect, but it can be real and it can be yours. And there is no perfect moment to start. But this moment, today, it feels like a good place to start. Take care and see you in the next one.